The time is exactly 8:37 a.m. and every year, round about this time, I have an opportunity to hook up with Dr. Shaheda Omar, and I'm smiling as I say this because it seems it's only this time of the year when I get to talk to her. But it is under very dire circumstances that we have these discussions because it is about the abuse of children, women, and also what seems to be coming to the forefront is femicide. It seems to be rearing its ugly head more often than not. So, Dr. Shaheda Umar, who is the clinical director at the Teddy Bear Clinic for Abused Children, will be talking to us about the 16 days of activism against gender based violence. Assalamu alaikum, Shaida. Welcome to the program. And I kind of wonder, we've been having these talks for such a long time, year in and year out, year in and year out. Do you think we're getting the message across? Or do you think as the generations grow, we're having newer and younger people that need to hear these messages and start changing their behavior, their actions, and start being real people? Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam. Shukran Dalilan for this opportunity. An excellent question. We are already 30 years into the commemoration of the 16 days of activism. And Julie, as you and I have discussed year after year, I think the frustrations around the 16 days, yes, it's a 365-day campaign and not just for 16 days. But if we look at the 16 days, what is the purpose of 16 days? It's perhaps just, I would say, to give a jolt to the whole world because it's a universal commemoration to understand, appreciate, and recognize the severity, the extent, and the gravity of the situation of violence against women and children who are the most marginalized population group. And the reality is that why have we not achieved or accomplished, the scourge of violence? And then our understanding, unpacking the actual processes on the ground, we have found that over the past years, it's been fragmented approaches. We're working in silos. It hasn't been a coordinated approach to the evidence based on the ground. So everybody's been working in their own pockets, and hence, as you say, we still continue to find ourselves in this intergenerational pattern or cycle of violence where more and more children who are growing up, our future leaders, are actually, committing this scale of violence. And that is something that needs to be addressed because we cannot seem to be achieving what we set out to do. So more work needs to be done. We need to get all our government departments, all our community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, everybody, because we know that protecting women and children is not just the responsibility of any single body or group. It's the responsibility of each and every one of us. We all have a role to play and a meaningful contribution to make.
Shaheda, you talked about intergenerational cycle of violence. Just unpack that for us a little further. It's actually very scary because you find children growing up in a dysfunctional home and they promise themselves that that's not the life they want to see for themselves when they're grown up, for themselves and their children. But invariably in that family, one or two of those children will sadly go down that path.
And very important, Julie, what you've raised is so critical. If we just look at evidence-based information, if a young boy witnesses his mother being a victim of domestic violence or intimate partner violence, what we're going to find is that he is 10 times more likely to become an abuser, a victimizer in his future adult relationships. So what we are also seeing that children who witness domestic violence or who are part directly or indirectly in a family where they see this GBV, they are more likely to become victims, gravitate towards relationships where they become victims or become victimizers. And this is what we talk about when we speak about perpetuating that cycle of violence and the intergenerational cycle of violence that seems to continue over their trajectory. And this is the reality that we are faced with, because children that were children 10 years ago are now adults. If, they were at the age of 10, witnessed, episodes of gender-based violence, become adults, and of course, we just see this cycle replaying itself through this course of life. Yeah.
Okay, so when we look at gender-based violence, I'm going to leave you to mull over these two questions, and you can respond after the ad break, which we're going to go to in a minute or two. But when we look at gender-based violence, it's not only male on female, it could be the other way around. And then I also want to look at the issue around why are children being abused? Not necessarily by their fathers, but sometimes even by their mothers. What's going on there? And also, how do we break the cycle of violence? So won't you please mull on those questions, Shaheda, and respond to me right after this ad break. It is exactly 8:44 a.m. I'm talking to Dr. Shaheda Omar. She is the clinical director at the Teddy Bear Clinic for Abused Children, and we're talking GBV in support of the 16 days of activism against GBV. So do stay with us.
Every 60 seconds, a silent pandemic claims the life of a child. Unsafe water is having a devastating global impact on health and livelihoods. Islamic Relief is at the forefront, providing clean and safe water to vulnerable communities around the world. Our tailored approach to sustainable water solutions enable families not just to survive, but to thrive, ensuring they stay healthy and safe. Give water, give life with Islamic Relief.
Looking to get your kick? Kiki's have now reopened on 235 Matthews Maiwa Road in Durban. Head on over for the Taste with Kick. We offer something scrumptious for everyone in the family. Wraps, chicken tikka, burgers, tender grills, mocktails, milkshakes, and so much more. Corporate and events catering available. Visit our social media pages for more info or call 031 209 0119. Kiki's, the Taste with Kick.
Reliable access to clean water could save thousands of lives each day. With proper sanitation and easy access to fresh, clean water, communities can flourish. Our Thirst Relief Appeal provides clean water to communities in Asia, Africa, and the Middle East by building deep wells and providing sustainable water and hygiene solutions. A monthly donation of as little as 700 Rand could build a well for a community in need. That's only 23 Rand a day. Donate today. www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
These days, I'm more health conscious than ever. So tonight it's stir fry for dinner, cooked in healthy Helios pure sunflower cooking oil. Helios is pure sunflower goodness, packed with omega-6. That's good for your heart and is proved as part of the Heart and Stroke Foundation eating plan. Dinner's ready! Helios, pure sunflower cooking oil. A healthy family is a happy one.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
As the crisis in Palestine continues, the Africa Muslims Agency teams are on the ground facilitating emergency food and medical assistance to the affected families. Donate 15,000 rand or any amount and help the people of Palestine. Call AMA now on 083-251-9376 or donate online at africamuslimsagency.co.za. Africa Muslims Agency, inspiring the spirit of giving.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
The time is exactly 8:48 a.m. and we have Dr. Shaheda Omar online talking to us about the 16 days of activism. She is the clinical director at the Teddy Bear Clinic for Abused Children. Shaheda, would you like to respond to the questions I put you before the ad break?
So, Julie,
Shaheda, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, loud and clearly. Yes, okay. I can hear you, Shaheda.
The questions you raised was around whether it's only females that are victims of gender-based violence, and the answer to that is definitely not. It could be any gender. I think we need to be aware of the LGBTQIA+, so it's male and female. The reality is that both females and males, but we know that in practice, more females are victims of gender-based violence.
Why are children victims of violence of any form? And when we talk violence, we're not necessarily talking physical violence. I'm thinking verbal and emotional abuse is also violence, is it not? Because I think there's nothing worse than breaking a person down completely in terms of self-worth, self-esteem, etc. That is going to, when you do that to a child, that's going to be a broken person that grows up.
Indeed, Julie. I think the issue around children, eroding their self-worth, eroding their self-esteem, destroying their belief in themselves in terms of the here and now and even the future, has long-term implications in terms of their well-being, their psyche, their emotional well-being, but even their mental health, which could actually catapult into a lot of challenges in coping skills in life moving on. But why are children being abused? We know that children are powerless, are helpless, are often at the mercy of their adults and their significant others. And if we look at the whole issue around gender-based violence, children are often used as pawns, the hate crimes, the revenge against a partner, where children are then soft targets and easily available and accessible for punishment. So that would be another reason why children are targeted. And of course, children are innocent and they cannot retaliate or fight back. So this is something that we often see. You mentioned something about femicide, and I want to also speak to maternal filicide, where we've actually seen mothers who have killed their children using rat poison, using other means of destruction. And that's all part of this gender-based violence cycle. Unfortunately, we're seeing more and more cases of maternal filicide. We had a mother who actually resorted to killing 3 of her children. She came out of a domestic violence relationship, and one of the consequences was that she couldn't cope, and her only way she thought, it was just saving her children, saving herself. She tried to commit suicide herself and resorted to killing her children. So these are harsh realities that we are seeing unfolding on the ground.
It also indicates the state of mind or the frame of mind of the person, the utter hopelessness and helplessness they feel. We are very quick to judge such situations, but we don't often think about the very, very dark hole that they're in. And they, as you say, this is the only way they see out. That's the one scenario. The second scenario probably is to punish the partner. You have given me a life of hell, and now I'm going to punish you by killing your children. So there's so many different factors at play here. But to wrap up in about 8 minutes' time, Shaheda, let's look at other two elements that might be impacting on GBV issues, and that is addiction and poverty. How does this play out?
So I think we need to look at addiction as well, is that it's an attempt to the solution of the problem. Addiction is when people are hooked onto things where they, cannot cope with life. They cannot cope with daily functioning. They need some form of fix to enable to continue on a daily basis, whether it's substances or alcohol, drugs. These are things that we are often finding where people, because of their lack of coping skills, the hopelessness, as you described earlier, the helplessness, feeling totally out of control and feeling defenseless, that if they do not resort to this kind of crutch, it's a crutch they need. But of course, the addiction continues to escalate and increase because the intention is not to destroy themselves. The intention is to help them cope through the situation. However, it does become more destructive not only for the individual, but all those that are connected or associated with the person that has the addiction. So addiction is, of course, one of the symptoms or an offshoot of a gender-based violence situation or circumstance. Then the next question you asked was, sorry, Julie?
Poverty. How does this drive it all?
Well,
I'm thinking poverty, women who are absolutely frustrated, unable to feed their children. How does that all play out?
So I think, the lessons we've learned over the past 2 years, and so with COVID hitting our shores, and, of course, we just hit the road running unexpectedly, uncertain, the unpredictability, and what we found ourselves faced with was something around women and, of course, males in certain situations becoming victims of gender-based violence, and what were the contributory factors that resulted in this kind of situation where families that were fairly functional, coping, satisfactorily, not absolutely great, but were managing with the overcrowding and not with COVID-19, the loss of jobs, the lack of household income, the frustration of being overcrowded, people on top of each other, people assuming multitask, where children were then, kept at home because of the lockdown, not having access to schools. And as a result of that, I think a lot of frustrations, a lot of feelings of inadequacies, not being able to fulfill certain roles or meeting the needs of their families as such, children, partners, extended families, all resulted in poverty. We saw that the implications of poverty having a negative impact on the well-being of people living in a household. So I think that is something we know where there's poverty. Poverty does not equal violence, but it does create conditions, or we would say that violence flourishes in an impoverished context.
Out of sheer frustration of the people in those conditions, they just don't know how to express themselves, they're not being heard, and this is the best way they believe in their minds is that they can give in to their frustration. It's not, it's not okay, but that's the way some people react.
And what you raised, Julie, I just want to say, what you say is people not being heard. And that is such an important point where people are trying to express themselves, articulate, and you see the manifestations in frustration and all sorts of other disorderly behavior. It's about actually putting our ears to the ground and listening to what they are saying.
Absolutely. Finally, Shaheda, we're talking poverty, we're talking frustration, we're talking overcrowding, dysfunction, etc., etc. Let's look at the educated classes. It doesn't matter how highly educated you are. It doesn't mean that you are safe, that you will not be a victim or you are not a perpetrator yourself. Let's look at that aspect of GBV. In that
so
context,
beautifully articulated by you, Julie, that nobody, regardless of race, class, creed, socioeconomic status, nobody is exempted from the scourge of gender-based violence. It occurs across the spectrum, regardless of who you are or where you come from. And I think one needs to be aware of the fact that it's not a poor man's disease or infliction. We are finding that in the most affluent of homes, there are victims of gender-based violence. And we need to be aware of that, and we need to look out for anybody that is in that situation and make them aware that help is a call away, regardless of who you are.
Can they actually change their behavior? Is there the necessary therapies involved? And I know that this is not a quick fix, that over time they can be okay again.
Well, for the victims, certainly there are opportunities in terms of intervention, support, healing. And healing is a process, like you said, it's not a quick fix. But for the victimizer, yes, there are opportunities for support and intervention as well. And, depending on, of course, the openness and the availability and the willingness to receive help, because we know that patterns of violence and gender-based violence is not an isolated or a single incident or event. We know that it perpetuates itself throughout the life cycle. So somebody who is a victimizer would require long-term support and intervention, like an addiction of any sort, that one is not cured, but it's about managing, it's about impulse control and restraining those impulses, and of course anger management and problem solving skills. So there is hope. I think we mustn't dismiss or discount that fact, provided people are committed to the process.
In closing, Shaheda, one piece of pertinent advice that you'd like to leave with the perpetrator and the victim, what would it be?
So the one thing we say repeatedly all the time: speak out, break the silence, and that silence is violence. So we need to speak out, stand up and speak out. No one needs to remain in that situation forever. There is hope for everybody out there.
Alhamdulillah. Dr. Shaheda Omar, Clinical Director at the Teddy Bear Clinic for Abused Children, talking to us about breaking the cycle of violence, breaking the cycle of addiction, breaking the cycle of anything that is unnatural. There are avenues, there are support groups, there are organizations that can support you and assist you to get over this. It is a process, but inshallah, there are people willing and waiting to help you. Shaheda, Jazakallah for your expertise. Till the next time, inshallah, Assalamu alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum salam. Always an absolute pleasure and delight to speak to you, Julie. Looking forward to talking to you again.
Likewise. It is exactly 9:01. This is News and Views right here on Salam Media.